against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Yo, welcome to another episode of Simply Bitcoin Live, your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, club breaking news, culture, medic warfare. We'll be your guide through the separation of money and state. We did break all-time high, so I am pulling out Satoshi, the Bitcoin chicken. Damn, it's been a really long time since we've been able to do that. For anyone who's not Simply Bitcoin OG, you don't remember, this is Satoshi the Bitcoin chicken. He clucks every time the price of Bitcoin breaks an all-time high, which it did this morning. We hit $69,250. We kissed it, and then there was a bit of a dump. But boy, oh boy, does it feel so good to be back at these places. I tweeted this out not too long ago. Last time Bitcoin was at $69,000, the hash rate was 4 times lower. There was no spot Bitcoin ETFs. Wall Street was not interested. Nation states were not mining it. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. Things are going to get crazy. Also, very interesting kind of takes coming out of Dylan LeClaire and Anthony Pompliano. And if you take a look at Bitcoin from a historical sense, every time the price of Bitcoin, or most of the time, or like 75-80% of the time that Bitcoin breaks an all-time high, the price doubles in like a matter of weeks. Like it's something crazy like that. So will it follow? I don't know. But we are in uncharted territory. We've never been in a position where Bitcoin breaks all-time high before the halving. Right, so we're in uncharted territory, and I suspect it has to do with the spot Bitcoin ETFs. We showed you guys the data, right? Wall Street is buying like on average between 7,000 to 10,000 Bitcoin per day. There's only 950 Bitcoin being mined, and that is about to get cut in half in April to 450. And what that causes, ladies and gentlemen, is absolute supply shock. So Wall Street is meeting absolute scarcity. That's why all this is happening right now. It's very exciting times. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've been holding, if you're class of 2021, if you're class of 2017, if you are an OG class of 2013, 2015, these are the moments, these are the days that you live for. This is your ultimate absolute vindication. This is when you start getting texts from friends and family asking you what is going on with Bitcoin. Michael Saylor continues to double down. MicroStrategy announced a proposed private offering of $600 million of convertible senior notes to do what? Of course, to buy more Bitcoin. Speaking of Michael Saylor, I was just with Michael Saylor, McCormack, Lavish, and all these awesome Luke Broyles and all these awesome Bitcoiners. We were in Bitcoin Atlantis in Madeira, Portugal. It was this amazing Bitcoin conference. I highly recommend going to it next year. Jack Dorsey was there. So many awesome. Samson Mao was there. So many awesome Bitcoiners. I highly recommend going to the conference. It's actually not that expensive. It's a lot less expensive than you might think. But incredible time, and of course, shout out to Opti for holding it down all these last couple of days. Anyways, no more delay. I do want to bring up my legendary co-host, who is always optimistic. His name is Optimus Fields. He is smiling. I caught him in a smile today, which means it's going to be a great show. How you doing, Opti?
I'm doing well. How can we not be doing well, guys? We're so back! Hey, we need to get the Satoshi chicken to cluck more, or I'm just going to co-opt it and just hit horns. So you need to put it near the mic. Like, it needs to... There we go.
Satoshi the Bitcoin chicken is clucking because the price of Bitcoin did break all-time highs.
Man, it feels good. It feels good to be right.
It feels good to be back. But like, what's crazy though, dude, is that like we're like, it's like, okay, we're back, but like we're not back. Like this is just getting started. This is just getting started. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 more years of this, or maybe a year and a half left of this. It's gonna be an absolute party. And trends are still not picking it up. Google Trends, YouTube View Trends, they still haven't got the memo yet. So people are still asleep to this, which leads me to believe that the party's just getting started, even though we just broke all-time high.
Well, Nico, there is
really,
one
really
trend.
exciting.
There is one trend that is picking up, and it is the corporate press coping with the fact that they aren't holding Bitcoin.
We're gonna play that. We're gonna play that for you guys today. Don't worry.
Let's go. That trend is improving. That trend is increasing.
We have that for you guys. We have the videos. Yes, the legacy corporate media is absolutely coping. Would be the correct word.
Strong cope.
They can't believe this, but this is vindication, ladies and gentlemen. These are the days that you will remember. When 50 years from now, 40 years from now, 30 years from now, when they'll tell you, they'll be asking you about the early days of Bitcoin, you will be telling them about these moments, right? About how you were holding it down. Everyone was questioning you, the attacks from the legacy media, the cope from the central bankers, Christine Lagarde freaking out, all these things. These are the days you're going to remember, and you'll get to be able to say to your children that you were part of the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, but only if you take self-custody. And that's a perfect segue to introduce our sponsor, give a shout out to our lead sponsor. And of course, I'm talking about Bitcoin Well by Real Bitcoin. Bitcoin Well is the self-custody Bitcoin platform on a mission to enable independence. All you got to do is go to bitcoinwell.com. You enter your email, get started, fast account verification, free and automatic Bitcoin withdrawals, 1% fee, nothing else. And they're going to be adding recurring purchases soon. Help us make self-custody by default the standard in the US. Only brought to you by Bitcoin Well. That's right. They're the first Bitcoin on-ramp in the United States of America that is self-custody by default. You can't buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well unless you take self-custody, which perfectly aligns with the Simply Bitcoin ethos of the separation of money and state. We cannot have the separation of money and state without individuals taking agency and action, taking personal responsibility, and taking self-custody. If you sign up now, you have a chance to enter the Bitcoin Jackpot Contest. Currently, there is a pot of 1.7 million sats. If you're an existing user of Bitcoin Well, go to the rewards section to enter the contest. So go to bitcoinwell.com/contest to enter the Bitcoin Jackpot Contest for a chance to win 1.7 million Satoshis, and that jackpot continues to grow. So anyways, ladies and gentlemen, no more delay. Let's get to the numbers. We have a lot to talk about.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Is your seed phrase really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them on paper. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. You want to put your generational wealth on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. Your words are actually stamped into this metal plate with this hammer and these letter stamps. And once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamped seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin with peace of mind for the long haul. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. Guys, I made it incredibly easy for you guys. You could scan the QR code on your screen. It'll take you directly to the Stamp Seed website where you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their website. Again, use promo code SIMPLY. Store your generational wealth properly. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 64,470.
It's over.
Sats per dollar, 1,551. Block height, 833,290. Blocks to halving, 6,710. Blocks to halving. Halving estimate April 20th, 2024. Total Lightning Network capacity 4,403 Bitcoin. Capacity value $283 million US dollars. Realized monetary inflation 1.74%. The market capitalization of Bitcoin, we're just getting started, 1.27 trillion, and the Bitcoin versus gold market cap almost at 10% is at 9.16
Hey, Nico, before we go on, guys, remember we were talking about the market cap of Bitcoin reaching silver? Well, we slightly passed it last night and this morning. On this retrace, we're a little under, but hey, we're demonetizing silver in real time. Anyways, go on, Nico.
Party's just getting started, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, if you guys are enjoying the show, if you're watching us on YouTube, on Rumble, on X, the platform of your choice, make sure to smash that like button. Really, really helps with the algos, really helps push the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, helps us push the orange signal forward. Anyways, we did break an all-time high. We broke $69,250. It's official. Bitcoin has passed the all-time high of the last cycle. And of course, there was an absolute drop because of that. But I don't know, guys. I'm going to show you some information today. Stay tuned till the end of the show, to the news section, where I'm going to show you that historically, when Bitcoin breaks all-time highs, it tends to double within a matter of weeks. Is it going to continue that pattern? Who knows? We shall see. But all I know is that Wall Street wants a ton of Bitcoin, and there's not enough Bitcoin to go around. Here's Neil Jacobs. He's posting a clip from CNBC. He says the cope and anger here is amazing, and it's 100% true. This is the vindication of not only yourself, of Michael Saylor, of Nayib Bukele. This is vindication, right? All the naysayers, all the detractors, all the people that were saying, there's nothing that backs Bitcoin. This is BS. The central bankers that's saying it's not real money. They got it wrong. Bitcoin has made an all-time high against all central bank money. Okay, so the central bankers could say anything they want to say. But the fact is that why does Bitcoin keep making all-time highs in their currency? It should tell you everything you need to know about what is the better money. Anyways, let's check out the clip.
Welcome back. Take a look at Bitcoin. There it is, over 67,000. We're approaching all-time highs, Mr. Weiss.
Yep.
It's another 7% today. What's behind this other than
pure momentum?
There's
still no use case.
on.
Well, there are a few things. Momentum. Kramer came out today and said he thinks it's because people trust fiat currencies less because of everybody's upside down, is in debt to GDP. I don't really think that's the case. I just don't think they're that big deeper. Sure, there's a small element that believes that all economies, all sovereigns are going to hell, so they're going to hide Bitcoin. That's not it. It's purely the marketing power right now of BlackRock and Fidelity, and more to come. But to show you how ridiculous it is, Bitcoin isn't even the top foreign currency. I think Bite the Dog, or whatever the hell that currency's name, is up 400%. I mean, it's just
so it's like a perfect storm for crypto. This particular asset class right now, between the approval of the ETFs and the biggest names in the asset management business getting into it, with some speculative fervor in parts of the market, biotech maybe here too, and overall risk on.
Complete perfect storm. Yep. But I think you have to look at the two products that investors really focus on. Number one, obviously Bitcoin, which has been traditionalized with the advent of the ETFs. Here's the interesting one, and here's the thought. You have Bitcoin up 58%. Right. You have Ethereum up 57%. Ethereum doesn't have the ETF yet. So you have a lot of people who are going to own Ethereum on the belief that an ETF is coming. Is Ethereum riding the back of Bitcoin, or is Ethereum rallying on the belief that the ETF's coming? Because if it's rallying on the back of Bitcoin, then there's so much more alpha that can be generated in owning Ethereum relative to Bitcoin, because the ETF's not there yet.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I don't think that deeply. I just think it's, sheep, being let slaughter.
Do we replay that like multiple times over the next 10 years?
What?
I don't think that deeply.
I don't
Guys,
think that deeply
in the control room, cut it now and save it. Send it to me so we all preserve a copy forever. We're going to be the National Archives of you, Weiss.
I got to be careful any edge I give you in that regard, that being one. But it's also the SEC came out and didn't get in the way. Basically, investors think, okay, now it's safe. The SEC blessed it, the courts blessed it. But it's pure momentum.
Okay,
yeah, I mean, it's pure momentum. Like that, I've heard that so many times. That person said there's no use case. I mean, the use case is that it's a better money, right? Like we've shown you guys the website priced in Bitcoin so many times. I literally did a presentation at Bitcoin Atlantis. I literally pulled up a screenshot of price in Bitcoin. Every single fiat currency is down. If you've been living on a Bitcoin standard, everything has gotten cheaper. The S&P 500 has gotten cheaper. Housing prices has gotten cheaper. Gold has gotten cheaper. Oil has gotten cheaper. If you've been saving in Bitcoin, that is the use case. It is the best savings vehicle the world has ever seen. That is the use case. It is the best money the world has ever seen. That is the use case. It is unconfiscatable wealth. That is the use case, right? It is peer-to-peer money. That is the use case, right? It is backed by the largest decentralized computing network in the world that isn't run by coercion. It's run by mere incentives alone, that was attacked by one of the most powerful nation states in the world, and without any central authority telling them to relocate to go to a more favorable jurisdiction, the Bitcoin hash rate, meaning the amount of computational power backing the Bitcoin network, actively mining it, recovered within 9 months. And here we are making an all-time high before the halving. The incentives are so strong that yes, BlackRock is advertising advertising Bitcoin. Yes, all these money managers are actively advertising for Bitcoin. Why? Because it's just better. So you can talk the talk, you can say it has no use case, and you know what? You're going to get left behind. I don't think it's a coincidence that the Vanguard CEO that a couple months ago was like a month ago was grandstanding, basically saying, you know what, we're not going to add that to Vanguard. We can't do that. It's crypto. It's too risky. It's Bitcoin, that. And now he just announced his retirement a week ago. If you're a money manager, if you're an institution and you decide to take an ideological stance and not offer Bitcoin to your clients, like, you're basically hurting your clients. You want your clients to have fun staying poor, full stop. And you know what? The beautiful thing about free markets is that your clients, or the clients of this firm, are just going to find someplace else that does offer exposure to Bitcoin. And these small allocations initially, the 1% allocations, the 2% allocations, the 3% allocation, what's going to start happening is that those small allocations are going to start outperforming the rest of the portfolio. Then it becomes this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. If that 1% allocation is outperforming the rest of the portfolio, then you're going to want to put even more than 1%, right? But this time is different, ladies and gentlemen. The largest capital markets in the world, which are in the US, now have the ability to get exposure to the best asset that has ever existed in the history of mankind. And you want to know why the price is where it's at? That is why. Bitcoin is a black hole. Its incentives are inescapable gravity. You can't get out of it, right? So you either bow down to the king, you either get on the train, or you get left behind. And you know what? Like I was on a panel, right? Which is like, are the institutions going to make it hard for the plebs, to get Bitcoin? Absolutely they are. But you've had 15 years. American Hodl's meme last cycle was 6.15. You've had 4 years, right? So, I mean, at this point, there's no excuse. At this point, if you're selling Bitcoin, you're 100 million% selling it to BlackRock. So, I mean, yeah, get on the train or get left behind. I have no sympathy for you. And look, if you have a family member, you have your brothers and your sisters, your family, right? The people around you that are close. It is your responsibility to orange pill them, to Uncle Jim them, right? To teach them how to take self-custody, or to take self-custody for them. Be the Uncle Jim, be the Bitcoin IT guy in your family. In fact, one of our sponsors, the Bitcoin Way, right, could literally do this for you. Right? So there's no excuse not to take self-custody. There's no excuse not to get yourself exposure to Bitcoin. All our partners are literally hand chosen so that you guys could have all the platforms and tools necessary to properly secure your Bitcoin, properly buy your Bitcoin, properly store your Bitcoin, and even mine your Bitcoin if you want to. So you have no excuse at this point. I mean, that guy's just going to get wrecked. I'm sorry, man. Have fun staying poor. That's your choice. Good riddance. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on all this, brother?
Oh man, I love the cope from people. You know, like Bitcoin has no utility. Like, okay, boomer, whatever you say. You know, the best performing asset over the last 12 to 15 years. Like, yeah, you know, someone said in the chat, like a store of value on steroids. Like, what are you guys even talking about? But there was something that he said, and it's kind of surprising considering that Kramer is the inverse Kramer meme. But is Kramer actually spreading signal? You know, people are losing faith in fiat currencies. It seems kind of like that might actually be what's going on. And then to his wording and phrasing, you know, first of all, what do you say? Like, I don't think deeply of it. Like, yeah, lol, of course. We can tell you don't think too deeply of it. And someone said he bought at 20 and sold at 40. So it's just more coping. It's just more gaslighting and trying to get people away from actually stacking in Bitcoin. But there is something I agree with him where he said, this is a perfect storm. Yes, I fully agree. It's a perfect storm for bullish sentiment in Bitcoin. Man, I can't wait to just keep bringing these people on and showing the clips of them and just bringing the receipts of them getting absolutely wrecked and talking bad about Bitcoin. Remember, what's that one website, Nico? It's like the Bitcoin obituaries. There's like hundreds of them, and they go back from some of your biggest and favorite Keynesian economists. My favorite one, Paul Krugman, basically saying that, like, you know, Bitcoin's basically the fax machine and that it's never going to go anywhere. And here we are, it's pumping. It's going to continue to pump. You know, nothing has ever came back from a 75 to 80% drawdown. Except Bitcoin's done it 5 times. Like, these guys could keep saying that Bitcoin is tulips, that Bitcoin is a speculative asset, that there's no utility. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just seeing the game differently, and a peer-to-peer money that stores your value through time and space with no middleman. That seems like there's some value there. Like, oh, a pure money has no value in a world where all the monies and currencies are going to trash. Like, you can just tell their bias. And we know our bias. We're Bitcoiners. But the free market is showing us in real time what bias is actually right, because no one controls Bitcoin. No amount of gaslighting or pontification from the corporate class or the polite class or whatever you want to call them can stop Bitcoin from taking over the world. It's getting adopted by individuals. We all are falling into the shelling point that is Bitcoin. Everyone's seeing the same thing and everyone's made that same decision. And, you know, we just barely kiss the all-time high. Yeah, maybe it was a wick, and we'll see if we break through it convincingly later. But, man, it looks like this week we're going to break through the all-time high and just start the run. The bull has begun its run.
The bull has begun. Exactly. Amen. Amen to that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to give a shout out to our new merch drop. It just came out. We partnered up with a awesome Bitcoin artist. The way that you guys get yourself, by the way, get it while supplies last. You can scan the QR code that Opti just put up on screen, take you directly to the website. We got t-shirts, we got hats, we got women's merch as well. Yeah, get yours while supplies last, ladies and gentlemen. This is a limited drop. Simply Bitcoin, Peaceful Revolution, the Bitcoin Gold Orange Pill, and Ashinoa is a incredible Bitcoin artist. So make sure to get you guys some merch. Of course, buy Bitcoin first. But if you can afford it, and if you want to support the Simply Bitcoin channel, help us stay independent, it's a great way to support us. So make sure to check out that merch, ladies and gentlemen. All right, everybody, let's get to the news. We got a lot to talk about.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more. ladies and gentlemen, remember, not your keys, not your cheese. You want to take self-custody of your Bitcoin. If your Bitcoin is on an exchange, if you have a what we call captured Bitcoin, a spot Bitcoin ETF, and you don't have real Bitcoin and it's not in cold storage, it's not really your Bitcoin. It's prone to government confiscation. So you want your Bitcoin in self-custody, and one of the way to do that is by getting yourself a hardware wallet. And of course, we recommend our sponsor, Passport by Foundation Devices. You could scan the QR code on your screen right now. You can even use promo code Bitcoin on the website, give you 3 months to a VPN service. Guys, check out Passport by Foundation Devices. Quick ETF update. BlackRock's ETF now currently holds 170,000 Bitcoin. The Fidelity ETF currently holds 110,000 Bitcoin. And just to kind of give a little bit of perspective, MicroStrategy holds 193,000 Bitcoin. BlackRock's almost there, right? It took MicroStrategy like 3 or 4 years to get to that amount. It took BlackRock like a month and a half. And you want to know why we're at these prices so quickly before the halving? This is why. Wall Street, institutional demand, the generation that holds the lion's share of the world's wealth is the boomer generation. And you know what? They like these vehicles. They like the fact that they can open their Charles Schwab account. They can purchase some Bitcoin, get exposure to Bitcoin. And, that's what BlackRock facilitates, right? So anyways, quick ETF update. We like to do this every single day. In other news, MicroStrategy announces proposed private offering of 600 million of convertible senior notes. We'll get into more of that tomorrow, but it looks like Michael Saylor continues his speculative attack on the dollar, right? Here's even Peter Schiff. That's right. This isn't a meme, a parody account. He says, "You are clearly insane, a modern day Ahab, fixated on Bitcoin rather than a white whale who will captain MicroStrategy into bankruptcy." I don't know about you, Peter Schiff, but the MicroStrategy stock is hitting all-time high. It hit $1,250. MicroStrategy has outcompeted everything else, including the S&P 500, including all the FANG stocks, all the tech stocks, right? It looks like MicroStrategy's Bitcoin strategy is the strategy. Let the numbers speak for themselves, and it looks like Michael Saylor is continuing to do that. All right, so I want to talk about today's topic, today's episode, today's title, right? And this is what I said. I said Bitcoin is catching up to what 2021 should have been if it wasn't for the China ban and FTX. This cycle should be wild. So before I get into the FTX stuff, I do want to focus on the China ban, okay? Because it played a really, really, really big role in my opinion. And obviously that's not happening this time. The hash rate continues to make all-time high. And of course, a lot of those miners are located in more favorable jurisdictions. So what happened? So the dotted line up top, that was the price of Bitcoin. And it just fell off a cliff. If you take a look at the hash rate, it did almost the same thing. The hash rate dropped 50%. And all those miners that were located in mainland China had to sell not only Bitcoin, but also sell their mining equipment and also sell their mining equipment. They've had to sell more Bitcoin in order to build out infrastructure in more favorable jurisdictions. I believe that this was the main catalyst why Bitcoin did not hit 100K in the last cycle of 2021. I believe that the reason that it was a little bit muted, it didn't reach its full potential. It tried, right? It gave it, a round 2 is because of the China ban. I believe that was the primary reason that it didn't do that. A lot of other people speculate that it was another reason. Here is Vijay Boyapati, the author of The Bullish Case for Bitcoin. And he said the last Bitcoin cycle was muted because of a combination of fraud by people like SBF, Mashinsky, and Barry Silbert, plus an unprecedented tightening of monetary policy by the Federal Reserve. And I completely agree, by the way, with those other factors. I'm just not as informed as Vijay on those other factors. But yes, SBF, Mashinsky, Barry Silbert selling paper Bitcoin, meaning people were buying Bitcoin on their exchanges, but they didn't actually have that Bitcoin to sell. Right. And of course, you know, if they were just selling paper Bitcoin, that means that they didn't have to go out of their way to get that Bitcoin that they're selling on the market, meaning the price would go up. Right. So, of course, that caused downward sell pressure. And of course, what VJ is saying here, the unprecedented tightening of monetary policy by the Federal Reserve. So 3 major factors. I completely agree. My background is in mining. I look at it from the mining perspective. That hash rate drop was a big deal. And I don't know, you guys, you look at this yourself and you tell me if that's a coincidence or not. But you know what's different this time is that Bitcoin is back at all-time highs, but the hash rate is 4 times higher. So theoretically, this means that Bitcoin is more computationally secure. Absolutely bullish. Anyways, so moving on to this, Jimmy Song said, feels like 2017. I completely agree. I think this cycle, I feel it. I feel it when people talk about it, right? They say stuff like diminishing returns. They say stuff like, you know, it's going to hit 100K, 150K. I don't know what the total price is, where it's going to end up. But guys, like, you know, usually Bitcoin does the exact opposite of what the majority thinks it's going to do. I do feel 2017 vibes. I feel like we were so, you know, like hit square in the jaw last cycle. I feel like 2021 was such a letdown for a lot of people. I think people were anticipating, 100K Bitcoin by 2021, that I think a lot of us suffer from PTSD. And I think, you know, I think Bitcoin's slowly making up for that fact, right? And that's why I think it feels a little bit different. But here's Jimmy Song. Jimmy Song has an interesting observation, again, in relating to 2017. He said, in 2017, my follower account overtook the Bitcoin price. Bitcoin price has a chance to overtake it this year. What is his follower account? 330K. I mean, does it sound so crazy? Like with these absolute run-ups, does it sound so crazy with BlackRock gobbling up the amount of Bitcoin they're gobbling up? And remember, the supply gets cut in half in April. And then this brings me to this next tweet by VJ once again. And he says, just to give you an idea of where we're going, the area on the right from this cycle is equivalent to the area on the left from the last cycle, right? So this is what we felt. Right. This is what we felt these last couple of months, the run up from 22K to 69K that we hit today. When you look back on the Bitcoin charts, this is what that's going to look like. This is what that's going to look like when the price of Bitcoin is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? It's going to make the little moves in the beginning look like nothing. And now, why am I saying this? Like, what is the data to actually back that up? Usually when there's a lot of interest, there's a lot, and Opti and I see this, and, you know, you just see this on Google Trends, and you just see this. You have retail, you have a lot of people that are interested in the price. You have a lot of people asking questions. If you take a look at this data, right, which perfectly co-aligns with the peaks of Bitcoin, right? In January 2021, this is the amount of the YouTube views for some of the most popular Bitcoin and crypto channels. Sorry, I had to put crypto in there just because of the way that this analytics is set up. They don't really have a lot of Bitcoin channels, but take a look at the pumps, right? Look at the amount of views. It perfectly co-aligns with what? The all-time high that we made last time. Now we've passed that all-time high, but take a look at the views. The views haven't even come close to the all-time highs of the previous cycle, which tells me not only instinctively, but also VJ's hypothesis here that he's absolutely right. We're in the very, very beginnings of this thing heating up. Now, I want to go and loop back to the original topic of this video. Right, which is every single time Bitcoin has done this, or not every single time, but 3 or 4 out of the 5 or 3 out of the 4 times Bitcoin breaks an all-time high, it doubles in a very short period of time. Here's Dylan LeClaire. He said the time it took Bitcoin to double after previous breaks of all-time highs. December 2020, 18 days. March 2017, 84 days. November 2013, 10 days. March 2013, 18 days. So, I mean, we can double, which think about it. That, 70K Bitcoin, you multiply that by 2, that's $140,000 in 2 weeks. Maybe 80 days, that's 3 months. Could you imagine $140,000 Bitcoin in 3 months? No, you would not believe me. But would you have believed me if I told you when we were sitting at 25K in October, November of last year, that Bitcoin was going to make all-time highs before the halving? You would have laughed me out of the effing room. So never underestimate the honey badger. And you have to understand that this cycle is different. The reason that this cycle is different is because of the amount of institutional interest. And because of Bitcoin's absolute scarcity, it makes it incredibly different. Look, if the price of gold goes up, the amount of gold production goes up with it. If the price of Bitcoin goes up, the production of Bitcoin stays the same. Not only does it stay the same, it gets cut in half. And next month, it's going to get cut in half. Are you not entertained by now? Do you not see what is lining up? The epicness that is lining up. I'm going to end the news segment with this. This was Anthony Pompliano on CNBC this morning, and he explained exactly what I'm saying on the legacy financial media. Let's check out what he has to say.
But also, as we near this record high, if we go back and we look at past record high breaks, or if we eclipse the old all-time high, 3 of the 4 times Bitcoin doubled in 18 days or less. And so if you think about that for a second, once you break through an all-time high, it's price discovery. What is this thing worth? The world is going to try to figure that out. And 3 of the last 4 times in 18 days or less, it doubled in price. You add in the fact that we have the halving coming, and we're going to go from 900 Bitcoin a day coming into the supply to 450. And it's very hard to make an argument that Bitcoin is not going much higher and at a faster pace than we all expected.
I mean, when you do the math, I feel like I need to say that past results are not indicative necessarily of the future, because it just sounds that anyone at home would if they're totally new at this game, they might mortgage their house and put it all in Bitcoin. And there is still risk in the asset, is there not?
I definitely don't think that they should do that, right? If you go and you ask most people in the Bitcoin world, they will tell you higher percentages than you would expect in terms of what they've put in. But I think 1 to 5% for a traditional portfolio ends up making sense.
But you just made a case for going from 70 to 140 in 18 days. I mean, that sounds like things that you hear on TV where you just want to really stay away from.
Bitcoin's up 20% in the last week. It's up 60% in the last month, and it's up 200% in the last year. I'm not saying it's going to 140,000. What I'm saying is 3 of the last 4 times, it doubled in 18 days. And with a halving upon us, it's just hard to not say this is likely to go much, much higher.
I mean, it speaks for itself. Again, back to showing the data. The time Bitcoin to double after previous breaks of all-time highs, December 2020, 18 days, March 2017, 84 days, November 2013, 10 days, March 2013, 18 days. So buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. If Bitcoin does what it historically does in the past, every time it breaks an all-time high, I mean, I think our buddy Vikingo might lose his bet to Adam Back and Samson Mount that are calling 100K Bitcoin before the halving, which would be absolutely effing bonkers. Anyway, Opti pull something up.
Yeah, I just this is one of my favorite things to do, and then I'm going to comment on the bull tar juice we just heard from Pop and Dylan. Absolutely love it. This is my favorite thing to do.
Bull tar juice, dude. I mean,
I don't know. I love it.
I don't think it's bull tar juice because I don't think any of them were saying price predictions. Like, I don't think any of them were saying like anything crazy. I think that they were just like observing what has happened last time, the last couple times the Bitcoin price hits an all-time high. That's not bull juice. This is what has happened every single time. Now, does that mean that it's going to happen again? No, absolutely not. But I mean, 3 out of the 4 times or 4 out of the 5 times, it has. So, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, that is something to say. Did we ever think that this was going to, did you think that by March, Bitcoin was going to hit $69,000? No, right? So, I mean, look, I think we're just getting started. It's the ETFs. It's the halving that's coming around. And I think Bitcoin is making up for, it's catching up for the letdown of 2021, the artificial letdown of 2021. Anyways, Opti, what were you saying?
Well, just the idea, and it's a new, not a relatively new meme. All your models are broken, and so like even on the flip side, you know, we have no idea where this is going. It looks like we historically might, you know, double in 18 days. I'm okay with this. I'm just saying, like, dude, it hit me in the main vein with that bull juice. That's some good stuff. Anyways, this is what I wanted to do. I love doing this for people because you can still see that most people think in the Bitcoin price in linear terms. And this is like one of my favorite things to do. Here's the historical Bitcoin price. And I'm using Bitstamp here because it goes back the longest. You can see this is the first bull run, 2012 and 2014. And then as you just start to zoom out and you just start seeing what the price does, it makes every top just look like ant hills over here. And you just keep moving. And this is going to continue to go on forever. As the meme goes, it's going up forever, guys. Like, here we are, you know, now we're pumping. And then when you just put it in log over here, you can actually start to see what's going on. So this is just like my favorite little visual to show people is like, guys, you're not thinking about Bitcoin correctly. Anyways, the idea of Bitcoin doubling in 18 days, I absolutely love it. And I like jokingly was tweeting the other day that 1,000x returns are still on the table. And Jimmy Song also is feeling the same idea that we might be in a 2017 type scenario. I keep just laying down very simple heuristics here, guys. Like Nico is saying, first and foremost, you know, we're in a whole new paradigm. Like Bitcoin has the quote unquote Wall Street legitimacy. We have institutional asset managers FOMOing into Bitcoin. We have, you know, Joe Kernan fully orange pilled on mainstream media. And we have yet to even see the retail FOMO that is going to follow once Bitcoin starts making its run. So right now, I'm sure every single one of you guys are starting to get texts or calls from your friends and family and being like, is it going up forever? And of course, you're like, yeah, you should start to allocate some capital into Bitcoin if you haven't already. And I think as we finally get into price discovery mode after breaking 69K convincingly, like everything is off the table. We don't know where this is going. We don't know where the top is. As the meme goes, you know, Bitcoin has no top because fiat is infinite. There is no top to the amount of money they're printing. It looks like we might start to get money printer to go burr again soon. And all this is a perfect storm for Bitcoin. We have the halving in less than a month. It's just like, man, this is the perfect storm for Bitcoin. So, hey, if it doubles in 18 days, 21 days, 3 months, I don't think any of us are going to be mad about it. It's just, man, what's the max pain theory? The Bitcoin idea of max pain. What Bitcoin usually does is max pain. And I think max pain for the majority of the world would be just Bitcoin ripping from here and everyone getting caught on the sidelines, waiting for, there's still Bitcoiners, quote unquote Bitcoiners waiting for like 12K Bitcoin. And we're at 70K. Like, we don't know where this is going. So 100%. It just goes to show that the best strategy here is stay humble, stack sats. Just continue to stack sats. Hold on to this for the long run. Take Bitcoin into custody. This is how you protect yourself throughout this great resetting, the great reset transition we are finding ourselves in. The whole world's getting repriced in Bitcoin, and we don't know where this is going. So this is why we tell you guys, don't trade, don't go into altcoins, just stack Bitcoin. You're going to be good. Just continue to provide value, continue to increase your cash flows and your skills and put it into Bitcoin and live your life. And when you come back, Bitcoin's going to go nuts. But it's going to be very hard the next 18 months, Nico, like people live their life because bull runs are absolutely crazy. And everyone in the chat's not even euphoric yet. We're not even getting the Google search trend. Retail FOMO hasn't gone here. Like, I'm not going to be surprised if this actually happens. So historically, We have the data points. Now we'll be watching it for the next 3 weeks and see if we can live up to the patch. But again, all your models are broken. Just stack sats, continue to stack sats, continue to take Bitcoin into custody. This is the way, guys.
100%, 100%. All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to the, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Kaboom Racks. They're the Kaboom Racks. They're the most trusted place to buy, sell, and host mining equipment. If you guys want to check out their store, you can scan the QR code on your screen. It'll take you directly to their Telegram inventory where you can connect with a member of their sales team. They make purchasing their products easy and transparent. You could also sell your mining equipment with them, access their vast network of domestic and international customers when you sell your mining equipment with Kaboom Racks. Again, scan the QR code on your screen or check the link in the video description and it will take you directly to the Kaboom Racks marketplace. Kaboom Racks. All right, everybody, let's hit the culture. Here we go.
The Daily Culture.
Guys, I also want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Bitcoin Evangelism, planting the seeds for the decentralized revolution. Bitcoin Evangelism is by Bryant DeMint, and it's an absolute beast of a resource for orange pilling no coiners and altcoiners alike. This is a book for Bitcoiners who know Bitcoin but have a hard time explaining it to their friends. It's a book for Bitcoiners who are trying to explain Bitcoin only to altcoiners. It's available right now on Amazon. Again, scan the QR code on your screen or check the link in the video description.
All right, wait, let's not bring this in yet. All right, guys. So I did, I got caught in Normie World over the weekend. I went down the corporate press route. I wanted to see what they're talking about. And I'm super glad that Nico brought up the COPE in regards to the Bitcoin price, because I found so much COPE in regards to inflation. And this is one of our favorite things to do here, is just literally point out the hypocrisy coming out from the corporate press and just explain it to you very simply and flip it on its head and always funnel it through the Bitcoin signal. So I got some articles here. I mentioned some of them yesterday, and I'm over here, I'm using Archive, but this is New York Times. And this is something we tell you guys constantly, that you cannot hide the sticker shock. And we're seeing them use the same framing in corporate press. So I have New York Times. I got a few articles here from the New York Times and even the IMF itself trying to reframe inflation. So, I got the inflation calculator and the price in Bitcoin to just kind of flip it all on its head. So here we go. New York Times headline here goes, "Will food prices stop rising quickly? Many companies say yes." Trust the companies, guys. Food companies are talking about smaller price increases this year. Good news for grocery shoppers. Again, guys, talking about smaller price increases. Not that inflation's going down. Not that you're going to be able to buy as much as you used to. Not that your purchasing power is going up, but prices are going to go up smaller. All right, so I just highlighted a few points in here because I think using the corporate press to make our points for us and kind of just pointing out the hypocrisy and pointing out the ridiculous economics and ideas that they're propagating to the masses just goes to show that either one, they completely don't understand what is actually happening or they're gaslighting the population out there. And, you can make your choice, but I know what my bias is. Anyways, let's get to this article. Again, this is New York Times. It goes, "Few prices are as visible to Americans as the ones they encounter at the grocery store or the drive-through window, which is why 2 years of rapid food inflation have been a major drag for the U.S. household and the Biden administration." Again, we say this constantly, that you cannot hide the sticker shock. As much as they try to reframe inflation, as much as they try to cope with inflation and gaslight you and psyop you into believing that inflation is this and not that, they can't get away from the fact that they have to acknowledge the truth of the matter, that you can't hide sticker shock, and everyone on Main Street is feeling the pain. I don't know if you've gone to the grocery store lately, but hey, man, steaks are more expensive than they were before. And even on the Bitcoin standard, it's still pretty expensive. So, but now the trend in grocery and restaurant inflation appears to be on the cusp of changing. After months of rapid increase, the cost of food at home climbed at a notably slower clip in January. Again, it's not that it stopped climbing, it just stopped climbing climbing as fast. And from packaged food providers to restaurant chains, companies across the food business are reporting that they are no longer raising prices as steeply. Again, no longer raising prices as steeply. They're still raising prices, but just not as steep, guys. You'll be all right. In some cases, that's because consumers are finally pushing back. Yes, we are. We are stacking Bitcoin, and this is how you push back. Even if food inflation cools, it does not mean that your grocery bill or restaurant check will get smaller. It just means it will stop climbing so quickly. Again, guys, you on Main Street, don't worry about it. It's not that inflation's going to stop. It's just not going to go as fast. Everything's fine, guys. It's literally the dog in the burning house. Everything's fine. Most companies are planning smaller price increases rather than outright price cuts. Yeah, it's just, price increases are just going to be smaller. They're not going down. They're just not going up as fast. Executives have found in recent months that they can raise prices only so high before consumers cut back. I think this is what we're seeing right now with the Bitcoin price going up. Some are under financial stress, talking about people, and are facing a, quote, real spending power squeeze, while others still have plenty of money, plenty of purchasing power to spend on lactose-free milk and protein shakes. So, while Main Street is getting poorer, the rich are getting richer, but don't worry about it. Inflation isn't going up as fast anymore. You're going to be okay. And even there, he said, it's going to trend down. Guys, inflation's going down. What are you worried about? Don't be worried about anything. And again, another New York Times article over here, they're explaining shrinkflation because everyone and their mother is realizing that, hey, my dollar isn't going as much. And let's blame these greedy corporations because they're charging us the same price but giving us cheaper products. So let's go into the same article or a new article on New York Times. Shrinkflation 101, the economics of smaller groceries. Have you noticed your grocery product shrinking? Here's how that gets counted and what gets missed in inflation data. And again, the reason I'm bringing up these articles is because not only the reframing and the hypocrisy, but the cope that they are gaslighting the population with and just reframing these terms and basically being like, look, guys, don't look on this side. Look at this side. This is the real problem. When in reality, we all know the problem. They're printing obscene amount of money. We have all gotten poor. Our purchasing power is getting decimated. And this is why we're Bitcoiners. So companies are downsizing products without downsizing prices. Greedy corporations. And consumer posts from Reddit to TikTok to the New York Times comment sections drip with the indignation at the trend, widely known as shrinkflation. It might be hard to believe, but shrinkflation appears to be happening less often today than it was a few years ago. Guys, yeah, you heard that right. It's shrinkflation. Yeah, it's a bad thing, but it's happening less than it was a few years ago, guys. Be happy out there. It's happening less. There's signs of relief out there. The government adjusts. Oh, and this is a good one. Remember how we always tell you guys how CPI numbers are completely manipulated? Well, even the New York Times has to acknowledge this. The government adjusts official inflation data to account for product downsizing, and the data collectors who monitor for size adjustments caught fewer instances of shrinking household goods and groceries in 2023 than a few years earlier. Yes, you heard this correctly. There's just fewer downsizing, guys. Not that, and shrinkflation isn't happening. There's just less shrinkflationing happening on the market. It's because everyone already shrunk their products. Okay, anyways, continuing down here, while shrinkflation gets measured, skimpflation does not. And they're creating new words too. Shrinking itself is captured in official inflation data, but another sneaky force that costs consumers is getting missed in the statistics. Companies sometimes use cheaper materials to save on costs, and to practice some cost skimpflation. That is much harder for the government to measure. If your paper towel roll costs the same, but you're getting fewer sheets, shrinkflation. That shows up clearly as a unit cost increase that is added to official inflation. But if your paper towels are the same size, but are suddenly made of worse material, that's skimpflation, and the government does not record that as inflation. It sounds all the same to me. Anyways, companies choose to shrink their products rather than charge more for a simple reason. Consumers often pay more attention to the prices than the sizes. When quantity goes down, people might notice, but often they don't. You don't get the sticker shock. Again, the New York Times is using the sticker shock meme. You can't hide from the sticker shock. We are all feeling this. Inflation has made all of our purchasing power get decimated. As Jack Mallers always says, 8 billion people all have the same problem. It's that
fiat is losing purchasing power, and you can't hide that. And this is why people are waking up and looking for alternatives. And even Jim Cramer is saying, wait, maybe fiat currencies are failing, and this is why people are going into Bitcoin. So when companies are merely looking after their profits, again, the greedy corporations, let's blame the greedy corporation. And when they only think about the profits and not their consumers, some pricing experts worry that persistent shrinkflation could drive shoppers away. That's right. You're not going to buy your food to survive because of shrinkflation. It's like, no, we have to buy this stuff anyways. When raw materials costs were climbing and inflation was in the headlines, consumers most likely understood that companies needed to pass some of those increases along. They may even have preferred smaller products to bigger price tags. But now overall inflation has been cooling. Again, guys, inflation's going down. Remember, we had a peak of 9.1 in July 2022, but now we're only at 3.1 in January, and consumers might be less willing to accept shrinkflation now that firms are facing less severe cost pressures, especially because food companies' profits have been, and in many cases, remain high. They may simply feel ripped off. Yes, we do feel ripped off. This is why we save in Bitcoin and something that can store our value through time and space. Well, I'm not alone here. It's not just the New York Times. It's not just the corporate press that is saying this. I found this article that dropped this morning from the IMF, and it's them coping with Keynesian economics and reframing Keynesian economics and saying, like, look, man, we've tried all this new fancy stuff, but we should go back to the old things that we know have worked. And this article here is called How Inflation Radically Changes Economic Ideas. I'm not going to read this whole thing because it's a bunch of crap. Anyways, the headline here: inflation teaches us that supply, not demand, constrains our economies, and government borrowing is limited. And here, this is like the most egregious part of this: the framing of what inflation is. And you guys know what the real term of inflation is the expansion of the money supply. Well, look how the IMF is framing inflation. Inflation comes when aggregate demand exceeds aggregate supply. The source of demand is not hard to find. And they're talking about the printing of money. So at least he's kind of talking about it. And then this one's funny. The mantras of the 2010s which preach that prosperity needed only for the government to borrow or print a huge amount of money and hand it out are in the dustbin. At least we can all admit that printing more money and handing it out to the most needy people makes us all poor. At least we're admitting certain things here. And then, what are the takeaways here? And this one's hilarious. This inflation has two deep lessons for monetary and financial policy. First, central banks do not entirely control inflation. I literally don't know if this is a Freudian slip here, because are they saying that central bank, the inflation is out of control and the Fed is literally can't control inflation? Or are they trying to psyop and saying like, hey man, it's not the central bank's fault. They don't entirely control inflation. Blame the greedy corporations. And this is just the cherry on top. Progress in economics has always come from answers, patiently worked out and empirically verified, simplifying reality to actionable cause and effect statements. I say it all the time. Keep it simple, guys. Just save in Bitcoin. Stop falling for the gerrymandering or whatever the meme is of Keynesian economics in the fiat world. And here is another great one. And I love how they're shifting blame here. Look, when economists try to supply ideas in response to political demands for their appearance of novelty, they dispense bad economics and bad politics. And I could totally agree with this. And then, of course, just to put the cherry on top here, you got to sometimes go back to just usinflationcalculator.com. Very simple. Put in the numbers. We all know the meme that the money supply has expanded 40% since 2020, and it's probably gone up even more. I couldn't even find the updated data for this, but we know that they've printed an obscene amount of money since 2020, and that's why we are all getting poorer, and that's why inflation is going up. But, sometimes you just got to put a little visual here. So inflation calculator. If in 2020, I purchased an item for $1,000, then in 2024, that same item would cost $1,191.67, a cumulative rate of inflation of 19.2%. That's right. They will psyop you and tell you that, inflation is cooling. Hey, it's only at 3%. Guys, you're only getting poorer by 3%, not 10%. Well, when you go down to the numbers, it seems like inflation has gone up 20% since 2020. And then on the flip side, price in Bitcoin 21, one of our favorite websites here. Everything's getting cheaper in Bitcoin, guys. So in the last 4 or 5 years, the US dollar's got 94% cheaper. And let's look at this. This is just,
absolutely brutal. Look how little sats we get for our dollar now. It's freaking brutal out there. Remember 2019, you get 26,000 sats for a single dollar, and today we're only at what, 1,500 sats, man. The dollar is getting decimated. All fiat currencies are getting decimated, and your life is getting cheaper on the Bitcoin standard. And again, I just ventured into normie land for a little bit because it's our job here to counter the fiat press. And it's amazing how they try to gaslight us about inflation. Remember, they reframed what recessions were. They're literally changing terms. They're making up words. They're gaslighting you on what inflation actually is, the root cause of inflation. And they're basically telling you guys, hey, everything's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't freak out, man. Go watch, television. Go watch reality TV and worry about the new current thing while the coffers are being robbed, while politicians are trying to print as much money as possible and make everyone poorer. And as us Bitcoiners, we're just sitting here like, guys, we have the solution. It is Bitcoin. And so whenever you can bring out examples from the corporate press of just their ridiculousness and their hypocrisy, you have to use it to paint the picture for your friends and family that, look, this is what they're saying inflation is. And as Bitcoiners, this is what we're saying inflation is, and whose life is getting better. Every person on planet Earth has a problem. We just all want to get more happy here. We just all want to make sure we're not getting broke. And in real time, Bitcoin is not only demonetizing the current store values, but every fiat currency is getting decimated against Bitcoin. This is why we stack Bitcoin. This is why we are Bitcoiner. This is the utility of Bitcoin, a store of value that can store value through time and space that cannot be debased. This is the way.
Amen. Amen to that. All right, guys, before we wrap up the show, I do want to give a very, very special shout out to our new merch drop. Guys, check it out. This is the second time I'm doing it shamelessly. We partnered up with Bitcoin artist Ashinoa. This really, really helps Simply Bitcoin, the channel. Guys, we're supported by our sponsors, by our fans. And of course, if you guys want to support the channel, check out our merch. All of this is brand new. Get yours while supplies last. Scan the QR code on your screen or check the link in the video description. Now, quick commentary on what Opti was saying. Look, the propaganda, because that's really what I call it, right? The corporate presses, Tucker had a episode with Mike Benz, and they were just discussing essentially how, these social media platforms, are pain in the ass for governments because they can no longer control the narratives. And I think what we've really figured out over the last 3, 4, 5 years is that these so-called, legacy media institutions are really nothing better than, propagandists for the acceptable narrative, right? And, if that means saying that Bitcoin is used for money laundering and terrorism and all that stuff, even though it's not true, even if that means, starting a war like what happened, in the early 2000s, where the New York Times claimed that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, came out after the fact that it was actually the intel agencies that, were feeding the New York Times that information. Yeah. Does it surprise me that the New York Times is making excuses to Wall Street Journal for inflation and coming out with these words to kind of justify why people's lives are getting more and more expensive? Like, does that surprise me? Absolutely not. This is literally the definition of gaslighting. This is gaslighting. The New York Times is not a friend of humanity, right? This is like protecting the regime, protecting the status quo, protecting, money that steals from people. And I find that absolutely detestable. I find that disgusting. And, but this is why the internet is so powerful. This is why your voice is so powerful. The internet has completely changed all of this, not only by disintermediating information, but also disintermediating money. Any one of you guys could be a citizen journalist. And because you're an individual, because you're not captured by corporate interest, you have the ability, the internet has given you the ability to speak what you see, what you observe. It's like, oh, prices are going down. I don't know about you, but my life has gotten, my steaks are 30%, more expensive than they were a couple years ago, right? So, people are not believing their eyes, but most importantly, right, in the USSR, the official state newspaper was called Pravda. If you translate that to English, it's called Truth, right? How crazy is that, right? Like literally the official state newspaper was called Truth, right? But it translated in Russian. But in the USSR, they didn't have the internet. And the internet allows peer-to-peer communication, peer-to-peer transaction. And that's why you see these government institutions, these government sources, they hate Twitter. They hate Rumble. They hate these, these platforms. They absolutely hate it because they can't control the narrative the way that they've been used to controlling it. And what you're seeing with the New York Times when they release these ludicrous articles is you're seeing archaic institutions of narrative control doing what they've done for decades. The only difference is that we are awakened. And by the day, more and more and more people are awakened. And by the day, not only are we awakened, not only are we doing our own research, not only are we consuming the information we want to consume, now we have unconfiscatable money that allows us not only to vote with our wallet, but it allows us to vote with our feet as well. Anyways, guys, that was the episode of Tuesday, March 5th of Simply Bitcoin Live. Guys, if you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. Guys, please check out our merch. It really, really helps with the channel. Like I said, of course, stack sats first, but check out the new drop. Get yours while supplies last. We'll be back tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. Peace out, everybody.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.